Welcome to LabCast, a podcast about the medical laboratory science profession, brought to you by MedLab Convo. To get notified once we drop an episode, you can do well to subscribe to all our social media platforms at MedLab Convo. For questions, feedbacks, and shout-outs, you can do well to send a mail to at medlabconvolabcast@gmail.com. Thank you for listening.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of LabCast, the podcast where we dive into real conversations that matter to medical laboratory professionals and students across Africa and beyond. I'm your host, Ghana Samuel Enyola, and with me today is the most amazing, delectable, precious Folaromi. And today we'll be talking about a topic that doesn't just get enough attention, but affects lives every day, addressing the inconsistencies in blood genotype testing. As medical laboratory scientists, we know how crucial accurate blood typing and genotyping are not just for transfusion safety, but for marriage counseling, prenatal care, and disease diagnosis. Yet, many of us have come across shocking cases where patients receive conflicting blood genotype results or rare blood type as they are completely missed. To help us break this down, I am honored to have with me Mr. Adewuyi Daniel, our guest. He's a medical laboratory scientist with a rich and dynamic background in both public health and academic. Daniel is a graduate of LabTech and has years of practical experience, having worked in reference laboratories, research lab, and now serving as an instructor at the university level. Mr. Daniel, please can you say hi?
Hi, everyone. It's nice to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome. Well, Mr. Daniel is not all about academics, but he's also an entrepreneur in the fashion space, proving that science and creativity can go hand in hand. One of his most notable contributions to the public health was his work with the Institute of Human Virology, where he was part of the team that studied seroprevalence of HIV in Nigeria. With a strong passion in training the next generation of scientists and improving medical practice, Daniel brings a well-rounded, real-world perspective to this discussion. So grab your headset, take a seat, carry your popcorn, and let's dive into this important conversation on how to spot, prevent, and respond to genotype errors in our labs today.
Thank you so much, Samuel, for that amazing introduction. Welcome to LabCast once again. Let's dive into the business for today. So when we talk about genotype testing, what exactly is genotype testing and why is it important in decisions like marriage, pregnancy, and blood donations? Because once you want to donate or once an individual wants to donate, they will ask him, okay, what exactly is your genotype? Or they will carry out laboratory diagnosis to confirm, okay, what exactly is this individual's genotype? So why is it important and what exactly is genotype testing?
All right. Genotype testing, as we all know, as a general to most people in the society, it's a crucial part of decision making as a layman, also as someone in the practice. Genotype is a process where we determine the hemoglobin present in the blood. We have different hemoglobins, but the major ones that are very, very common in our immediate society is hemoglobin A, hemoglobin S, hemoglobin C. We have others like hemoglobin E. But in our immediate society, which is mostly tested in every center, you could find genotype testing being done, majorly focus on hemoglobin A, hemoglobin S, and hemoglobin C. And going back to your question, you asked for the importance in marriage, in pregnancy, and in donation. Actually, we have hemoglobin A, hemoglobin S, and hemoglobin C. So mostly we have either a person being AA, AS, SS, AC, CC. And most times when we have cases of people that are AS, the S is described as sickle cell, and people that are AS are carriers. So they might not show symptoms as sickle cell patients. And so most people don't know. And in olden days where we have people not being tested for their genotype, we have issues where people get married and they keep giving birth to their children, keep falling sick, and they blame it on possibly their family people, possibly on some causes on the family. Not knowing that the mistake they made while making a choice of life partner is because they didn't check the genotype. So possibly the father is a carrier, the mother is a carrier. And they will say, I don't grow up falling sick. How am I having children that are falling sick? And this kind of man will possibly take a second wife And when you take a second wife, possibly the person is an AA genotype person. The person keeps giving birth to healthy children. And the person comes to the conclusion that the first wife is either a witch or a cursed person. Not knowing that the mistake is coming from both parties because they are both carriers. And it is very essential to limit the part of sickle cell patients in our Indian society because it's something that is avoidable. And if you have a way of checking to prevent something, I think it will be an offense to have someone who is a carrier marrying someone else who is a carrier, because people might be blinded by love or possibly by one prophecy or one seer that has said this is a life partner. And it's one of the basic and I believe should be a very compulsory test for anybody going to get married, because I've had friends, I've seen patients suffered as sickle cell patients, and it's really not a sight to see. And it's one of the sickle cell disease is one of the diseases we have in our society that is rampant but can be avoided. And it should be one of the starts for any marriage, no matter how much you love each other. Once one person is a carrier and the other person is also a carrier, it is a no-no. We have the combination. There is a chart for that, which is very, very much available, even in general places. And myself, I've also been on certain awareness. This is where we go to market because, and I noticed during our awareness programs, some people are not really aware of it. They don't know. So we had to come around, let them know why it is compulsory. You check this. How some people check people's future in diabolic ways. There's a way you can check it. It's a very, very affordable test, which is something which is advisable to be done. And in pregnancy also, science is advancing every single day. And now, fetus, they can determine the genotype of the fetus while it is still in vivo without even giving birth. So they can make decisions ahead. No, most times, some people, they might possibly be in a stage of being in a relationship, possibly dating, and pregnancy comes to place. So they've not gotten to the stage where they want to determine their genotype to see if they want to get married or they are compatible to get married. They are just dating. And pregnancy comes into place, and unfortunately, the man is a carrier, the woman is a carrier. Now the woman is carrying a baby. We don't know the genotype of the baby. Now science has advanced in a level where we can check to see the genotype of the baby in vivo. I'm moving on to blood donation. When we have sickle cell patients in need of blood, because sickle cell patients comes with certain symptoms which low PCV is one of the symptoms of the crisis of sickle cell patients, and they need to be transfused with a pint of blood. It is always advisable because we already know the blood in the circulation is sickle, virtually a sickle cell. We are with little amounts of cells that are red cells that are not sickle. So if transfusion is supposed to be taking place in such cases, it's advisable such patient is transfused with a blood that is not having any carriers as sickle. So it's advisable we go for AAA blood. So it's a very important thing to a process. Though most practices in some centers don't have time to do that or they don't go to that. But on certain requests, I've experienced that during my internship in OUTSC where we have to do genotype for a blood that is needed to be transfused for patients. Also in cases of exchange blood transfusion also, I remembered one of the practices we had to do genotype for the 6 pints of blood we were going to use for exchange blood transfusion and a particular process during my internship. So it is a very, very vital aspect in these 3 major conditions in a human. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. When you spoke about two carriers having, and the man coming to say that, I'm a strong man, what happened? It just reminded me of a story I had of a man whose daughter was having sickle cell and kept saying that, what do you mean? How can you tell me that I am a carrier? Can't you see me? I'm a strong man. I'm a macho man. So the person who told the story just said that, okay, can you just go and check? And when the person checked, to his surprise, it was a carrier. In fact, he was dumbfounded. He did not know what to say. He did not know what to say. So I really understand what you're saying. I don't know if you've had experiences with people with uncommon blood types or hemoglobin variants that, because of their uncommon nature, they are missed or misdiagnosed in our standard laboratory test. I don't know. Have you had experience with them, or have you maybe had of some of these people or some of the people with these conditions that we will often miss because their blood types are rare?
Yes, if we would consider ASC as a rare blood type in our immediate societies, certain blood types are not things we can find with Africans. Some might be limited to Asians, but the one I've seen that I would consider rare, which we hardly see on daily basis, is ASC. And in conditions where we have patients with ASC, there's a machine we can use to determine the percentage of hemoglobin, whether the person is having more of A, more of C, more of S. So I've seen an experience of that before, but it's very rare, ASC. And in such cases, most people would possibly, because at times when we have three splitting like that on the cellulose accelerated paper, most people possibly would ignore one of it because it might really not be as bold as the other two, whereas they end up diagnosing them as possibly AS or SC. And on some cases where some people are not exposed to seeing CC, because at the time an intern saw CC when I was doing my NYSC and assumed it was SS because the person was still in training. But the fact that we have a way we run our genotype testing there where no matter your cadre in the sector as a medical scientist, someone has to review whatever you do. So the person already agreed this was SS, but we had to do it again because the person has not seen CC before. We had to do it again. I did it the first time I saw CC because no, most cases people don't have controls that they can use. The most common controls people have are always AA control, AS control, and SS control. So people are not exposed to having CC control because it's actually a rare blood type, which even if you pick 10,000 people, you might at least see one or two people having that blood type. So without controls, most people end up mixing CC for SS. But when we looked at it critically, we noticed the spacing on the band was very different from a sickle cell patient. When fully well, we use this SS control. We had to request for an AC sample from a reference lab to get as a control to use, which made us come to a definite conclusion that this patient was CC. I've had only that experience once, and aside that, I've really not had something like that.
I can really say that from what you've said now, having a control is very important when you are conducting a genotype test. So, why do some laboratories mistake rare blood types for the more common ones, and what impacts can it have on the patient?
All right, thank you. Well, I would say one of the reasons why people make such mistakes during genotype testing is firstly one of the biggest reasons where most mistakes happen is because of controls. Because some of the locations where genotype is being done, there might be unavailability of controls because of storage conditions. Certain people will have controls from a known genotype they've done before, possibly a control that will, because controls are actually very, very destructible. Hemoglobins are protein, and if there's no good storage condition for them, they degenerate over time. And most places, lack of electricity, so they couldn't maintain temperature to store their controls. Even if they are using an human control, which can still stay active for 7 to 14 days, most people, because of storage conditions, the controls generate, and the controls can possibly be giving you wrong results, whereas you're using that wrong result to determine the type of other results. That's firstly. And also, the kind of electrophoresis machine I've seen in some places, it takes a lot of experiences and continuous repetition to get right results. It boils down to the kind of applicator they use. I've seen places where we use say stapler pen to apply. We have seen places where they use broom because of lack of equipment. Some places the reagents being used, sometimes some of these things are not readily available, whereas people have to keep the ones they've been using on the bench with bad storage conditions for a long time, whereas it keeps giving them bad results. Also, the cellulose activated paper some people use in some places I've seen, they've overused it. When you already have a cellulose activated paper having different marks from stapler pen on it, and people still keep using it for new testings. Naturally, in Senate clients, when the cellulose activated paper is being used and for genotype testing, it's supposed to be stained and kept as record. But here we keep it back, we wash it again, we keep using it again until it keeps tearing up. These are things that affect results. Also, timing also, because I've worked at a place where the electrophoresis machine has its own time. It notifies you it is done. Most places, people just use their mind. They check at intervals to see if it is fully separated. Sometimes it has separated, it has not fully separated yet. The band is still moving, but because it has taken enough time, now they are checking their writing results. Whereas this thing is still moving. You're still supposed to even leave it for the next 5 minutes, but people they use their mind. Some people use stopwatch, or people use their phone time to check. Timing is very essential. I know some of the machines they come with 15 minutes, some with 10 minutes. The kind of reagent you are using determines the kind of machine you are using determines how long you keep it on the paper applicator. And also, I noticed also The way people lyse their red cell before using it also matters a lot. Some people, the kind of, we have to lyse it with water so that we can expose the red cell. But when you see the kind of water some people use just because it's a local environment. I was opportunity to serve in a village in quote, or let's say town, and I noticed practices that can possibly affect results because of the kind of place we find ourselves. It boils down to some of my friends that served with me then and myself that we have to repeat it over and over, which is also wasting time. Well, we have to repeat it over and over to be sure we are getting the right thing. Whereas some people might not be patient enough to do that. They just do it once, they release the results because they are time conscious. So these are basically certain reasons that affect genotype results in our immediate society. Effects of wrong genotype results. It's a very deadly thing. When I mean it's something that can ruin a generation and possibly ruin families, ruin a society at large. When you see couples during their premarital processes and they come to the hospital to check if they're compatible, whereas we carry out serological testing on them, sometimes hormonal testing on them, and it comes to genotype, one of the cheapest tests out of the tests they're going to do, but one of the very vital tests. When people are oblivious of the genotype, people come around. Another problem we always have that brings out wrong results is also when medical practitioners, you are listening to what patients are telling you. They say, my genotype is AA, I know. They argue with you, but you are going inside to do it. You are keeping the AA at the back of your mind before you start doing it. You don't listen to that, you don't keep that in mind. You do it on a neat mind. Whereas you don't have any background knowledge of what person's genotype is, you run it cleanly. So whatever you are getting, maybe you have to do the control, do it more than once. Whatever you are getting is what you stick with. And so when you see a situation where maybe you're in a hurry to run samples, you are running much samples, whereas maybe when you were licensed, you tend to mix it up, or when you were spotting on the assessed paper, you tend to mix which patient is holding the number one position with number two. So when you mix up results, it's going to give you wrong results. When someone who is AA, you are giving person AS. Now, when we have people that are preparing for marriages and you are telling the husband is AA, but his wife is AS, whereas you've mixed something up, whereas they're supposed to be ASS, which we know they are very incompatible to get married. You already give them a guide to get married. Now, their man is at rest. Now they did the wedding, elaborate wedding. Now they are giving birth. The first child is coming out as AA, possibly AS. They are good, no problem. The second, an average Nigeria gives birth to 3 to 4 children. It might even be until the second child, might be the first child also, might be the last child. Now they're having the last child now. It's leading to problems in the marriage also, because now the husband will be asking the wife, where did you see this kid? They said I'm AA. He said you are AA. Where are you seeing a kid? They said the man is AA. The wife is AA. So why are you seeing a child with sickle? Now you are giving back to a child that is going to suffer for a long time in their lifetime, because sickle cell patients are warriors. They go through a lot. I have friends and I've experienced their pains. They are warriors. They go through a lot. You are putting an innocent child through trouble by your own mistake as medical laboratory scientist. Now you are causing a problem in their family. It's a long journey. I've seen people coming back after 6 years, after 7 years of doing a genotype at the facility. Now they are married. Now they have a child who is sickle. And they've done somewhere else. Now they are saying that I'm AA. So, but they told us in one big teaching hospital that I was AA. Now they are coming back after 6 years. During my internship, there was a case. They had to bring out a file of 2016 in a recent 2020 something to check what they wrote that year. It's a long time back, because the genotype result is not something because you've done it now, you've left. They can recall it back in the next 10 years. Now you've affected the family, you have placed them on spendings they've not planned for, because taking care of a sickle cell patient is expensive. You have placed the family on drains. It's a lot that we really cannot really imagine, except you find yourself in that shoe or really see someone closer to you that is going through that. It's an emotional pain to them, financial trauma to them. It's a long process. Now that child will keep blaming the parents. The parents will now feel guilty for an offense that is not theirs. They came to the right place to get tested, but you gave them the go ahead to get married. Also, in transfusion, it will be deadly if you have a sickle cell patient in need of blood. You are still transfusing that kind of patient with the blood of an AS donor. It's not advisable. You are not really helping the patient. The best way you can help the patient is transfer that kind of patient with AA blood, because if the case of a patient is already get to the point where the person needs transfusion, it's very advisable as an healthcare practitioner to transfuse a blood which is not a carrier in any way to the patient. Sickle cell patients can not donate blood. We all know that. But AC who are carriers can really donate blood once they are fit. I'm a carrier and I donate blood as a voluntary donor because of my blood type. My blood is fit to be given to patients in different cases, but for it's a case of someone who is a carrier, it's very who is a sickle patient. It's very non-advisable at any point to donate such blood to the patient because it's more like you are doing 50% good and 50% bad to that patient. And I think another general effect it has on our society, giving wrong results, is it boils down to the fact that it reduces our integrity as lab scientists. Whereas people will tell you, I did it here, they gave me, I'm coming here, you're saying it's AS. They go to another place, they're saying it's AS. They go to another place, it's AA again. It makes scientists look like we are not capable of doing our jobs because these are results that are supposed to be uniform. Whether it is done here in Nigeria or done in Asia or done in Europe, it should be constant. Whether it is AA year, in 2024 it is AA, in 2025 it should still remain AA in another location. But when they keep having variants of results when it comes to genotype, it boils down to the kind of scientists we have on bench. It boils down to their integrity or how their know-how when they are carrying out the processes. It's a very vital test. I remember during my internship, this test is significantly kept for chief scientists because it requires you to be calm and be more focused. But during my sojourn in the profession, I was exposed to machines that can actually carry out the genotype, even in percentage, where you can know the percentage of the A in the system, possibly the percentage of the S in the system. So that helps as a backup control. So when we do the genotype manually, we also run the sample on the machine just to know whether we are having the same results. That's another way to set up controls when you have machines where you can compare the human. So you are trying to rule out human errors from these things, and it's when you give us results continuously over a period of time, and it is constant because genotype is meant to be constant. Well, I believe in miracles, but so far I believe genotype is meant to be constant. So if you're able to churn out results as medical scientists in any part of the country, it gives you integrity and gives you courage at your work. You know you are doing the right thing. You will be confident enough that if they take this anywhere else, it's going to remain the same thing.
All right, thank you very much. You made mention of machines, like a machine that can be used to confirm the percentage of hemoglobin present in the blood sample. So I don't know if you can still remember the name of that machine for someone who would like to check it up.
Yeah, it's a Sysmex Biorad D10 machine. A Biorad D10 machine. It was made by Sysmex.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you so much, sir. I've really been enjoying this conversation so far. The issue we're talking about, I've had issues with people where they come to say that yes, the result we give out was wrong and it was almost going legal. But thank God, thankfully we're right. And the patient went to get results from a quack place. Now, in a situation where we were wrong, for example, and it has happened, we've released the results, and maybe wanted to just be sure again, we checked again, and we saw that our AA is now AS. Ran again and we saw it's AS. Ran again and we saw it's AS. And results have been released. What do we do? That's the question. What do you think we should do?
Well, in my own experience, when I was practicing in the reference laboratory, we've had such cases before, and this was because our results are entered electronically, and someone was it was a night duty, the person was just trying to enter a result. The person entered AS instead of AA. Now, we have a policy there. Once you give out a wrong result, whether it's on genotype, full blood count, as small as MPs, PCV, the process of patient reconciliation, the moment you detect, it's never too late. The moment you detect, you reach out to the patient because there is still time to know the limitation of what actions could have been taken. Most people, because of shame, they will say that, well, let me keep this to myself. It's one of the best and wicked practice anybody can do. The moment anybody discovers, that's why the process of quality control and people repeatability of tests, when people do it again and they're getting the same thing. Now we have gotten something different. When it's not like a PCV of a different sample where it has increased because the person has been transfused, or possibly because of storage condition, or possibly because of anticoagulant that was used in collecting sample. Genotype is meant to be constant and consistent. Now, once you discover such thing, the first thing is find a way to reach out to the patient or the facility that sends sample. You hold up the shame that we've made mistake. Now we've noticed our mistake before you noticed. You are the one reaching out. As much as your patients can be very, very ununderstanding or very, very angry, you are the one reaching out. They are not the one that detected by going to another facility. I've experienced the case of lawsuit over genotype before. I know it was handled because we discovered early before you discovered yourself. You could have taken actions, but it is still early because I know if you are able to discover within a day, 2 days, a week, possibly even it's a month, such patients would not have been charged within that 1 month. So whatever the damage that could have been done is still reversible. There is still a way around it. But you keeping such results yourself is the bad deal. Once you notice such, we reach out to the patient or we reach out to the facility that requested for the results. We let them know what we've discovered. The new results we send to them, we send an apology, we send a mail, we reach out via calls because you must be sure they are getting the new information. Until you get a feedback from that, they've gotten the new information you are passing out, then you can rest assured that you've done the right thing. Even though there might be consequences that might come with it, some people might get to lose their job, people might be asked to pay fines. We've had a case where I was in my former workplace, they sued us. We paid a sum of 1 million naira to such patients. It happens, but at least you've done the right thing by saving such patients and maintaining the integrity of yourself as a medical lab scientist. You got to know you did recall yourself. It is easier and better than for them to go and discover somewhere else. Whereas it's going to make you lose your integrity as a facility, reduces your patients, gives you bad review. So these are ways you can cope. Nobody's above mistakes. It might be typographical error. It might be written error, transcription error when you're trying to transfer what you're saying to writing. Mistakes can happen at different points. But the right thing to do always is just make the effort of reaching out to whoever requested for such test and let them know the current development as soon as possible that such error was discovered.
Wow. Okay, so I would like to ask a question now from everything that you've said as regards discovering a wrong genotype now. Do you think a confirmatory test should be done or should be mandatory for genotype results?
Well, based on my own experience, a confirmatory test should be done and a quality control check should also be done on any genotype result before it is being released out, regardless of the urgency of results. Genotype results can hardly be a life-threatening result, can hardly. Some cases, it might be a determinative decision for whatever treatment that is meant to be given to such patients. Some patients might be going through a crisis and they don't even know the patient is a sickle cell. So time is very conscious. But regardless of how much of a hurry you have to release such results, a confirmatory test is meant to be done by who carried it out firstly. A practice I saw, which was something that saved us a lot of troubles, is not genotype result is to be released until another person does it. It takes time, but it saves troubles because mistakes are bound to happen when you mix up samples because most times you hardly run genotype per samples. We run in tens, in fives, some places in 20s. So there is possibility of misreading results. In the case of human error where someone is seeing separation, the other person is not seeing separation, it's an human error. It's bound to happen. Some people read genotype. I've seen a place where when you do the genotype testing, you read the paper inversely. Some places they read directly. Someone that has been trained in a place where they've been reading the paper inversely for long comes to a new place, starts reading it inversely, whereas the person keeps giving out wrong results all through. There's a way we call that by having a second person to review. We call it review in my former place. You have to review the result before it's being written out. And it is to be reviewed by possibly someone who has been in the profession maybe way longer than you or been in the particular settings, has a much know-how about whatever machine or equipment you're using in that place more than you. Then they run it again. It's the best practice to have a second review of genotype results before being released out. It saves troubles because it eliminates oversight. There might be an oversight where most times some people dot their controls twice, some people dot it once. Now you've been seeing people dot it twice, but you have always been dotting it once. Now you've dotted it twice. Now you've made the mistake of counting on your paper. Now you are transcribing your result to the paper, and now you are writing wrong. You are giving number one to number two. It can happen to anybody. You might be working under stress It might be anything. But when you have someone to review or redo it, there's a way you can review without even redoing it. There's a way we have a way we run this in certain practices where you eliminate the possible errors anybody can make. So it's very advisable in any practice. For genotype testing, in most cases, it's very, very advisable. It should be a good standard, if I would say, that we have someone to run it again, possibly with the same sample or the same solution you've made, or they prepare their own from the scratch again, just to eliminate troubles. There's a regular saying that two heads are better than one. So when two people do it again, it's very hard. It is very hard when two people do the same thing and they are making the same mistake. It can happen, but it is very hard. So it eliminates chances of mistake.
All right. Okay. So now the deed has been done, right? So how do we, as medical laboratory science professionals, how do we build trust with patients, especially when the results are complex, conflicting, or even potentially life changing? How do we build trust with our patients or even our clients?
Okay, one of the best practices I have employed for myself is no matter how urgent it is, I would say it is better to give a late result, a late correct result, than to give an early wrong result. It is better. No, it's not the best to give late results, but it's better you're sure. If everybody is taking, there's a way people work. When you have nonchalant attitude towards your work, so people have mindset, I'm coming to just work for my money. When you are happy about what you're doing, you have passion for what you're doing, you put your heart to it. Whatever troubles you have, you put it aside when you're at work, because our work is a very sensitive work as lab scientists. So once you are there, you put your head in the game 100. If you are not in the game 100, then step aside. Let them even sanction you for not giving out your best in a day that you're not working, than forcing yourself to work and doing rubbish. So once you are sure, as every laboratory scientist, once you make conscious efforts to put your best into whatever you are doing, you have to. That means you will be very, very cautious. You do the right practices. You don't do shortcuts to get results. You do the right practices. Once you know you've put such efforts in carrying out your procedures, now you still take your time to check through again. At least that eliminates your chances for error. And most times, one thing we talk about good result is repeatability. When you can repeat the same result and get the same thing, we talk about precision also. So for genotype now, it's a case of repeatability. If I do it the first time, where I did my NYC, when you do your genotype in the morning, you don't use that result in the morning. We give a date span for genotype result, except for emergencies. You come back when you are chilled, possibly in the evening again, or the next morning before doing anything, you run it again. If you are a trained lab scientist, if you had made the mistake the first day, you are doing second time, you are seeing something different. That boils down to the fact where you use the number of threes or five. If you have done something once, you get A. You are doing the second time, you are getting AS. It comes down to the number of threes or five. You have to do it the third time or do it up to the fifth time, so as to eliminate errors. Now, if you do it the first time, you are getting A. Doing the second time, you are getting AS. Or the third time, you are getting A again. That's a mix-up. You are confused now. Best is, most cases, you separate that sample. You do it separately alone. Once you can take such practice into a place where you are able to repeat your result and get same thing over time, you are confident whatever you are giving out. Even when someone comes back and say, no, I've seen cases where we give patients their genotypes and they say, no, they've done it somewhere else before. It is AS. Like, are you sure? He said, when I was in 100 level, I said, you were in 100 level. Myself, I've been giving genotype AA before as a result, because these people dealt with large number of samples. So that's why they could have made a mistake. I said, have you done it somewhere else? They said, no. Okay. I said, I am sure of what I've given you. Take it another way. Do it again. What I'm giving you, I am sure. So once every scientist takes upon themselves to give out their best whenever they're carrying out a procedure in terms of doing it again, possibly doing it the right way at every point in time, we'll be confident enough to stand at, even if you have someone coming back with a result that says it is false, you know you are right. You are sure. But most times when we tell them we are right, we still go back inside and check again. Am I still right? That's just like a backup to just reaffirm your confidence. Once error are done, we don't play the blame game. You own up to your responsibility. You accept the facts. Most times, people had lost their license because of their type. They own up their responsibility. You own up to the responsibility. You do the right thing. Most times, I've noticed that the way we address patients at times is the reason why they react to us in some ways. If you attend to your patients once they come back for certain complaints in a calm manner, that definitely is something that is not going to cause trouble, because they've noticed, they are telling you now. You accepted them where you spoke with them in a polite manner. You're taking back that result from them. You are running it again to confirm whether what you are giving out is right or not. You will limit tension, limit argument. But most times, people might tend behavioral issues where you are possibly someone who has high ego. you're having issues to accept the fact that you are wrong. You might be wrong. It might be a mistake. You have to take to it and attend to it and do something in that regard. It helps us. It builds our confidence in whatever practices we are giving out on daily basis.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for the responses so far. I am honestly enjoying this episode. All right, so finally we are wrapping up, and I want to, from all you've said so far, what do you think you can advise Nigeria to do, especially in policies regarding genotypes? What do you think?
One of the reasons why we have inconsistencies is because every nook and cranny we have quacks running this testing. You see people doing courses that are not medical lab scientists running genotype testing. I think there should be a body where they monitor testings in the laboratory. Genotype is not something to fickle with or toy with or play with like some other tests that people play with in the laboratory. It's a test. If you possibly it gives only a wrong PCV result and life is not threatening, all the gap of PCV is not much. Possibly the person might survive. And they do the testing somewhere, some of the others, and get better results. But don't type testing something like you can give someone the wrong result and it's going to affect the rest of their life. So my advice is just that government should look into helping laboratories, funding laboratories, because I think one of the problems we have is storage facilities also. We have facilities that they don't have storage conditions for their controls, for their reagents. There is a way the government can help and look into this by funding facilities to help their storage conditions. Also, we have the board, our board as MLS board, should look into regulating practices of people around where they run the type results. Maybe they can place the way there is a limitation or a control over some expensive tests you have in the profession. Maybe genotype should be considered as a very crucial test where you can't just run it anywhere. There should be limitations to who can run it. Even as medical scientists, it's advisable. It's advisable that facilities don't just give genotype to interns on training to run. You can train them on how to do it, give them a chance, but it should be under strict monitoring. Nowadays, we have practice where interns are left to work alone. Interns are meant to work under close monitoring. There should be certain gold standards to how. Where I did my internship, genotype testing is considered a special test. It's not a regular test everybody does. So if they can consider it in most facilities that sometimes a special test, it limits our errors because special attention is paid to special tests. So my advice is just certain policies have to be put in place just to limit mistakes, because the more mistakes we give out, the more damage we cause to the society. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, sir. So we are wrapping up now, and we have this special segment we call This or That. Now, it's the part where we ask you a question and you reply immediately. So it's either you pick this or you pick that. I don't know if you are ready, sir.
Yes, I am with you.
All right. So which of the departments do you prefer in hematology, general hema or BGS?
I would prefer blood group serology.
All right. BGS for our audience means broad group serology. All right. Would you prefer manual or automation?
With my experience, automation any day, anytime.
Okay. So, would you prefer to run genotype during the day or during call?
During call, because it's a less crowded time of the day. During call duties.
All right. All right. All right. Thank you so much.
And that wraps up today's episode on blood genotype inconsistencies. And I want to say a big thank you to our guest, Mr. Daniel, for this episode is actually very, very amazing. And I enjoyed it, as Sam has rightly said the other time. So thank you so much for sharing this important insights with us, and for sharing your knowledge and experience. We really appreciate it. So, our listeners, thank you for being part of this conversation. And don't forget to follow us on all social media platforms at MedLab Convo and stay connected with us. So, if you've got any question, suggestion, or stories that you would love to share, we'd love to hear from you. Just send us a mail at medlabconvolabcast@gmail.com. So, until next time, stay ethical and stay proud to be a medical laboratory scientist or a professional. Bye for now. Bye.